Hola, buenas tardes, everybody. Good evening. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to tonight's En Casa con La Plaza. En Casa con La Plaza is La Plaza's virtual programming. We've been at it since April of 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. We've been bringing these presentations, demonstrations, conversations, and performances to you 2-3 times per week, in lieu of having programs at La Plaza that we normally have during the year. But we are now opened. We opened back in April 15th. La Plaza is open from Wednesday through Tuesday, noon to 5 p.m., closed only on Tuesday. Wednesday through Monday, closed Tuesday from noon to 5 p.m. No reservations necessary, but are encouraged at lapca.org, and please wear a mask when you come in. La Tienda gift store is also open, so bring cash, debit, or credit card. All of our exhibitions are open, including LA Starts Here, Calle Principal, and our temporary exhibitions, Afro Latinidad, Mi Casa, My City, Carlos Almaraz, Evolution Form, and Only Light Can Do That, which is a neon art installation by Patrick Martinez, which you can view. You don't even have to come into the museum. Just cruise on by, day or night. You can see it on 30+ windows there at La Plaza facing Main Street. Our public programming has also begun. We just this past weekend, we had a big one with our first summer salsa dance concert with the Arsenio Rodriguez Project last Friday. And Sunday was our 10th anniversary family day with music, dancing, workshops. Las Colibri were there. Tierra Blanca dance ensemble was there. It was incredible, and we'll be having more. Just check our website, lapca.org, to keep up with our public programming along with what we're doing here on En Casa con La Plaza, because these continue. And then finally, we're announcing our 10th anniversary Pobladores Awards Gala, Wednesday, September 29th, honoring the founders of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Imagine, we've been open for 10 years now. And so we'll be celebrating in high style, both at La Plaza, outdoors, and also virtually. So go to our website, lapca.org, to get more information. We'd like to thank our sponsor today, AARP California. And finally, if you're on Zoom, please use the chat feature to let us know where you're viewing from. We'd like to know how far away people are viewing this incredible session that we're having tonight. And also on Facebook, use the comment section to let us know where you're viewing from. You could ask questions on our Q&A, on the chat, on the comment section. We'll probably save them till later. But for now, let's welcome our every other week host with the most, El Gran Dan Guerrero. Please welcome Dan.
I was just taking a big gulp of my beverage here when I heard you. How are you?
Well, salud, salud. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. We're here. First of all, I want, some of you may know that this tonight's show with this very special guest was had to be rescheduled because I had this little family emergency last time. So I want to thank everyone. I got so many texts and private messages and things asking if everything was okay and I was all right. So I'm fine. It was a family member, but it was scary for a minute, but it turned out to be fine. So everything is well. So thank you all for your thoughts. And thank you to tonight's guests, because we have two, for their understanding and patience and for coming back tonight. So I think we should get right to it, don't you?
Let's do it, Dan. We'll see you soon.
You go away, but you come back later. Later. And I will introduce our special guest. Well, tonight's guest is very well known as a music producer, an entrepreneur, I mean, big time one. And now he's a writer with a recently published autobiography. But this is not your typical showbiz memoir full of dish, This is titled A Father's Dream. It's an absolutely wonderful book. And as I read it, I thought, a father's dream, with all that this man has accomplished and all of his achievements, I'll bet you he's proudest of having been a father. So let's find out. Here he is, zooming in from Corpus, a place that everybody loves and I've never been. Can you believe it? Please welcome Mr. Abraham Quintanilla. Mr. Q, there you are. Thank you. I was going to say thank you for staying up so late, but you're a night owl, aren't you, from your music days?
I sure am. I still can't go to sleep early.
Yeah.
I'm awake very late every day, every night.
You still have that musician's clock in you. I've been enjoying your wonderful book, and it is recently published. And I guess I wasn't as smart as I thought about, I bet being a father is the most important, because in the foreword, Eddie almost says, first and foremost, Abraham Quintanilla is a father. So I wasn't as smart as I thought. Is this a fair assessment? You're being a father?
Of course, I'm a proud father of my children.
And we have a photo of your three beautiful siblings. I think we have here, Abelardo. Oh, Abelardo. There they are. We have AB, Abraham Quintanilla III, I believe.
Yes.
And of course, the beautiful Selena and the beautiful Suzette. Your three greatest accomplishments. You know, you write in your book about the importance of parents guiding their children and encouraging them. I know you were the middle child of 6 growing up in Corpus. Did you learn that growing up? What was your father like? Did you learn that from your father?
Well, my family, my dad and my mother were married till they died. They passed away. And they taught us good things, you know, they stayed in my mind. It's amazing how when your mother tells you something, you think it's going to be there and gone the next day, but it isn't. Stayed in my mind for many years. And I learned a lot from her and from my father. My father was a hardworking man. He was born in Corpus Christi also. My mother was born in Etna, Texas. And my father owned a body shop, and he was a body shop person and painter, car painter.
This is a photo of you, not of his father, Abelardo. This is a little later. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Your father was a very hardworking man, and 6 children. Were you all close? Were you all very close as a family?
Oh yes, we still are, but ya se desenlizó el saco, or the sack, you know, porque ya murieron 2 hermanas mías, and my baby brother, who was 10 years younger than me, he just passed away about 2 years ago. He went to sleep and never woke up.
Wow. Wow.
If I had the choice, I would like to do that, but of course we don't have a choice.
We don't, but you're right. It's terrible to lose anyone that way, but that's the way to go, man. That's the way to go. I always think it should be great to be center stage, taking a bow, going to the wings and drop like a rock. That to me sounds pretty good too. I like that. Not anytime soon, I understand. Now the tag title here, To a Father's Dream, My Family's Journey in Music. And indeed, it is a journey in music. And your life in music started very, very early. You started as a gumdrop. Isn't that right?
Yes, empezamos con un trío de voces, a trio, and we were called the Gumdrops.
This is high school?
Yes, and we thought it was a little, the name just wasn't what we really wanted. So then we changed it to Los Dinos. And a lot of people ask me, well, where did the name Dino come from? Well, here in the neighborhoods lived this old Italian man, and he would tell us that in his neighborhood, back in Italy, that was a slang word for muchachos, or the guys, los dinos. And so we liked it, and that's what we changed it to los dinos, and we were los dinos from 1957 to 1972.
and that trajectory of that group is fascinating. We're going to get to it in a minute, but you dropped out of high school as a senior to pursue life as a singer. How did your parents feel about that? They weren't exactly excited.
No, no, they weren't. I quituated in the 11th grade. And then I came back about 2-3 years later to try to, try to do it.
Yeah.
But I felt odd because all the people around me were 3 years younger than me. I felt like an old guy sitting in the classroom. So I quit again. And then when I moved to Lake Jackson, Texas, where my daughter Selena was born, I took the GED class, and I got my diploma through that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I finished school in GED.
In 1959, we're very close in age. We were talking earlier. I graduated from Garfield in 59. And while I was just graduating Garfield, you were having a hit record. The Dinos made a record in 1959, a local, there was a local a record company there in Corpus?
Yes, there was two, the first record company, there was pretty large company, was out of McAllen, Texas. Wow, I'm really getting old because
It'll come back to you. Here, what page is it on? I'll look it up for you.
I don't think I put that in the book, but that was the first record company that we recorded, and we recorded 3 albums with them, and then we quit. It was Falcon Records, Discos Falcon, and then from there we went to a barely new company, about 2 years old, called Bego Records, and the owners was Mr. Gonzalez from Saginaw, Mexico, and Paulino Bernal from McAllen, Texas. They were the owners. That's why they put Bego, Bernal Gonzalez.
But Abelardo, let's bring that photo back, because that's when, no, well, okay. All right, so we'll do the Dinos. Let's jump ahead to the Dinos here. So in the 50s, you were making all kinds of records, and you were really getting well known, and you started by getting gigs there in Corpus. And then with the second hit record, pretty soon you were traveling all through Texas. So you had a real career going there.
Yes, actually, back then, in the late 50s, oldies music was starting to get very popular in the American scene. And we always started out with English music. We used to sing all English music.
Yeah.
And if anybody saw the movie, I put a scene in there that happened in real life when we were starting. The hardest for a Mexican dance in Sinton, Texas, 30 miles away from Corpus Christi. And of course, we're singing doo-wop at that time. And this, found out later that this place was a Mexican dance hall. And so I put the scene in the movie where we're singing doo-wop music, and people got upset. They want their money. The promoter goes up on stage and tells them he's going to shut the dance down and offer their money back and everything. And they're screaming at us, cursing us. The people, I'm talking about the crowd.
Yeah.
And they said that they were kind of catch us outside. And at that time, there was no such things as telephones inside a dance hall or security. So they had to send to town, and they sent out 2 cars of deputies, and they had to wait there till we loaded up our rinky-dink equipment and escorted us out of town. It was rough. I put that in the movie at the beginning of the movie.
But that at that point you were kind of vacillating between the two worlds, because sometimes you were the Dinos and sometimes you were Los Dinos. and you were getting racism from the non-Latinos who would hire you thinking you were Italian.
Well,
And then they
that's
refuse to pay you, and or motels won't let you stay there. I mean,
Uh,
what the hell does that do to you as a teenager?
well, the Dinos is where we started after we changed from gumdrops. We changed it to the Dinos. We're called the Dinos. And then it wasn't until that event there that I just mentioned in Louisville that they want to beat us up because we didn't sing Spanish. And that following Monday, we came to this record company, and we knew that the owner wrote songs, Spanish songs. In fact, he wrote a big, big hit with a singer named Lisa Lopez. Si quieres verme llorar. That was a song. And that was an international hit. And from that point on, when we visit this man, his name was Johnny Herrera, that's where we changed completely to Spanish. But we would still do English music in certain places. But most of it was Tejano music. That's when they changed the name to Los Dinos.
And then at one point, you actually got into Chicano rock. But was that after the service? Was that after the service?
No, we never got into Chicano rock.
Really?
No, it was a doo-wop. It's Spanish doo-wop,
Okay.
but in English. I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
because we really love I still do doo-wop music. But and when that incident happened in Sinton, Texas, the following Monday is when we went to the record shop. He gave us some songs in Spanish, and from there on, we started recording in Spanish as Los Dinos, and that's why we were signed up to Falcon. We got signed up to Falcon Records.
And Spanish indeed was your first language. That was your first language.
Yes, of course, un poquito mucho because somos Tejanos.
That's right.
It's not the correct Spanish that we use in Texas. Y cuando íbamos para across the border, los mexicanos nos decían pochos.
Sure. We're pochos here too, but we're Chicanos, not Tejanos. It's all very complicated. I always say, who are we? I've been through Mexican American, Latino, now you're Latinx, then Hispanic, and it's very confusing for those. But you had a very, I mean, considering you were local, basically you were pretty much in Texas in that area, but you had a very solid career going there. And then of course you went into the service. And
let me tell you, we started here in Texas. But when we started recording in Spanish, we played Los Angeles, Fresno. We played the Garlic Festival over there close to the Bay Area.
Gilroy.
We used to play. There wasn't a town in California that my group didn't play in. We were booked by a promoter there from Los Angeles. They call him El Gordo del Flaco. It was his nickname. And his brother from Fresno, his name was Leo Valdivia. And he used to book us there at a place called Rainbow Ballroom.
Sure. There was that whole circuit for the Latinos. My dad played the Rainbow Ballroom, and there was that whole circus where all the musicians would go, to towns that didn't have necessarily Latino programming yet on their own, maybe, but it was a very, very vibrant circuit for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to add that when we changed record companies to Bagel Records, they worked what we call, back then we called it the migrant tour, because we would go to all over the United States to areas donde había heavy concentrations. I mean, immigrant people that from the Valley of Texas, they would go pick fruits and vegetables, and then some of them would stay there and they lived there for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I met my wife, but I was in the military then.
She is known in the book, the girl in the gray slacks.
Yes.
That's what she's called in the book. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. And of course, you're still married. She sounds like an extraordinary lady.
Yes, we just celebrated this past June 58 years of marriage.
Wow. Wow. Now, as a family man, once you married AB, Abraham the third was the first baby, right? And so you suddenly find yourself with a wife and a baby. And so you kind of joined a civilian life for a while with a 9-to-5 job.
Yes, I quit the band. Uh, it was a little tough working with 11 persons. We were 11-piece orchestra.
Wow.
And,
That's a lot of musicians to travel.
And we were a vocal trio, un trío con orquesta tejana. And so I quit about 1969, and the group continued on for about till 1971, in the middle of the year 19, that's when they broke up and disbanded. But when I quit in 1969, I moved to Lake Jackson, Texas, because my older sister, Gloria, her husband worked for Dow Chemical. He was a chemist in Dow Chemical. And I moved over there and went and made an application at Dow Chemical. And I was hired, and I worked in the plant for 13 years.
13 years? 13 years?
Yes,
Wow.
at Dow Chemical.
Wow.
And when I moved over there in 69, Selena was born in 1971, April the 16th, 1971. And now, and also when I moved there to Lake Jackson, AB was 4 years old and Suzette was 4 months old. All my kids are almost 4 years apart.
Now, when Selena was born, it was interesting because you first got a very unfortunate diagnosis from a doctor about your wife. Tell us that story.
Well, my wife was not feeling well, was feeling ill. And so I said, let's go see the doctor. Well, she wanted to go to a gynecologist. And the doctor examined her, took some x-rays, and he says, I got some bad news. You have a tumor and we have to remove it, have an operation. And so I told my wife, I don't know about that. Let's take a second opinion. So we went to another doctor and explained to the second doctor what the first doctor had told her, that it was a tumor. Well, they started examining my wife and all that. And the second doctor tells me and my wife, said, well, that tumor has 2 legs and 2 arms. She was pregnant with Selena. Now, can you imagine if we'd have let the first doctor operate her and try to take her out?
Oh my God. And here's a wonderful photo of the tumor. Do we have that? Look at that, lovely.
So another interesting thing is that the second doctor was an oncologist, and he's the one that delivered Selena. And guess what? He ran for the presidency of the United States, Dr. Ron Paul.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and his son is still a senator, Rand Paul.
Yes, of course. Wow. Wow. So Selena, well, the DNA obviously was in all your children, and I guess you were guiding them along that way because you were teaching AB the guitar, and Selena is how old at that time, and she starts singing right away.
Selena, when I found out that Selena had talent to sing, she was 6 years old. When I started working with Dow Chemical, got away from the music, and I really missed it. So I would come home at 5 o'clock from the work time from Dow, and I would grab the guitar and start banging on it, because I played a little guitar. I didn't play with a group, but I know how to play guitar. And so one day, Selena comes and sits down next to me and started singing. I was singing the song, I'm in the Mood for Love.
Oh,
And Selena started singing along with me. And I said, wow, this girl can sing. She's in time. She's got a great pitch and everything. And so that right there, when I first saw that, my wheels started coming, the wheels started spinning again. Because I miss music. I've been
sure.
out of it for I lived in Lake Jackson for 13 years and worked it out. And so in order to fulfill that music need, musicians will tell you that it is an obsession. It's like a
Oh, sure.
drug that gets into your heart and you're hooked on it.
Yeah.
You know, music is like that. And so I went and a friend of mine gave me an old bass that the brand was from Sears and Roebuck. Can you believe that they used to make basses back then?
I remember Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah.
Catalog was about this thing.
Yeah. And so I bought new strings, tuned it up, and I started teaching AB the basics on the bass. And then
And he took to it right away. It wasn't like you were forcing him
Well,
into something that he didn't
well,
care about.
I'm gonna tell you something. Suzette was the last one left, and I said, "You're gonna learn the drums." And of course, she didn't want to. She said, "It doesn't look good for a girl to play drums." And I said, "No, mijita, to the contrary, that's an added attraction. How many girls drummers do you see?" And so finally, she settled in, accepted it, and started learning the drums. And so by the age of 9 years old, because I had moved back to Corpus in 1980 to be exact, Selena was 9 years old, and I started looking for work in a Dow Chemical plant here in the area in Corpus. And everywhere I went, they would tell me you're overqualified, which is a nice way to say you're too old. And I couldn't find work. So I told my wife, the only other thing that I've ever done in my life is music. I'm going back and I'm gonna start booking my kids. And that was,
we have a photo of the kids maybe around that time. Look, how was this? Where was this?
this was at my brother-in-law's house. And so I started booking because then I felt like I was too old to be playing with them. I got out and I got this young girl to play the keyboards, the piano, and a young boy to play the guitar. And so now the group is complete. And I started booking them since Selena was 9 years old.
Wow. Wow. And it was your son who came up with the idea of when you finally formed the band to pick up the old your high school.
Yeah,
band
because
time.
they wanted a name. And Amy, my brother, said, "Dad, can we use the name Los Dinos that you used to play with?" I said, "Excellent choice." So we named it Selena and the Dinos, or Los Dinos.
Now there was no sibling rivalry that it was Selena and the Dinos, like, you know, Diana Ross and the Supremes. There was no escándalo.
Never anything like that was with my kids, and I'll tell you why. Because the very first money when we were starting, Selena 9 years old, they paid us $250. And when we got home, I divided the $250 in 4 parts. One quarter for Selena, 1/4 for AB, 1/4 for Suzette, and 1/4 for me. We were 4 partners. And that's the way it was till the day that Selena was killed.
Wow.
There was no rivalry or anything. Like, for example, I'll tell you, when I got the Coca-Cola contract, they signed Selena as a spokesperson. She was with them for 6 years. They even made a Coca-Cola bottle that bears her name. Yeah, we have some copies left, a few productions. And so Coca-Cola sent us the first check, and it was a huge check, but it was for Selena. Well, Selena didn't want to. Let me drink a little bit of my tea.
Go for it. Go for it. And I'll have some of my medicine here.
So Selena wanted to cash the check and divide it 4 ways. I said, no, mijita, this is for you. You're the spokesperson. But she wouldn't have any of that. We cashed the check and divided it 4 ways. The 4 parts.
Wow. Wow.
And that's the way it was till the day that she passed away.
There was a time there, Abraham, when you opened a Mexican restaurant, Papagayos, with a stage so that the kids could play with an audience and get some chops, get their performing chops going.
Well, it was a big restaurant. And in one corner, I built a little stage. And my kids would play there every Friday and Saturday night. And people loved it. And I had a little dance platform in the middle of the restaurant. The restaurant was huge. It was a huge restaurant. So people would get up and dance. And that's how they became more seasoned in what they were doing.
And they loved it. They loved live performing.
Oh, yeah, they loved it. Even to the day that my daughter got killed, they loved it. But Selena passed away. They didn't want to go any forward, except Amy. About 5 years later, Amy started a group of his own called the Cumbia Kings.
I don't know if you remember, Abraham, but I produced a television award show for NBC, the Vida Awards, I think it was called. And I had Celia Cruz, and I had, I think, Eddie Olmos as a presenter, and I had Tito, and I said, I need some young people here. I mean, these are legends, but young people. And when I was producing El Show de Paul Rodriguez, Selena had been on with Alvaro Torres. They were working together, and they did the show together. And now Selena was Selena. And I said to NBC, we really must get her. And of course, NBC, not being Latino, said that they didn't know who she was. So every day I was having my talent exec fax information on Selena. We've got to have her. She's big. We've got to have her. She's it, blah, blah, blah. And finally they said, yeah. And you and I spoke, and you told me, and this is difficult, but you told me that I said, I have to know, because her schedule was so crazy busy. And I called and we spoke, and you said that she was coming back to Corpus, I don't know, on a Wednesday, and you were going to see her and you would let me know the next day. And that horrible next day was the day that we lost her.
Yes.
It was, my talent exec came in and he said, have you heard the news? Because we had been living with her for 2 weeks, faxing things on her and talking about her. And so you and her husband, Chris, came to Washington, and we did a special homage to her, and you both accepted the award on her behalf. And it was just a few weeks after her passing. And I was very grateful that you were able and willing to do that for us. Do you remember the Vida Awards?
Yes, I do.
And Nestor Torres played Somewhere Over the Rainbow on a flute, because I said she was, like Dorothy, someone who wanted to see what was outside there, but there was nothing better for her than home. And yeah.
Selena was a beautiful person. I've always said, because 26 years later after her passing, you ought to see, I built a museum of her, for her in my company, Q Productions. And we get hundreds and hundreds of people every day. We're only open 6 hours, Monday through Friday. We're closed on the weekends. And so it's 10 in the morning, and then we close at 4. Well, this is the kind of crowd we get. Yesterday we had 1,400 people in 6 hours. That's a lot.
Wow, that's a lot.
The Friday before, we had 2,300 people coming in a 6-hour period.
Wow.
And it's been.
Is that her? That's her car, I assume.
Yes, that was one of her cars. She had a new car of the same kind, but it was black, but it was a new one. And but this was her favorite. That's where we put it in the museum. And we kept my wife kept all her clothing, so we have displays of her clothing.
Of her costume. We have it, and this is her collection of eggs. Did she used to collect eggs?
Well, let me tell you how that got started. There's two shelves down on the bottom of this that are full of those eggs. They call them Fabergé eggs.
Yeah, Fabergé.
Yeah. Well, the record company people, the president gave her one of those eggs.
Oh.
Well, somehow everybody finds out, and people started sending her eggs from all over. So she kept them. But I mean, we have a big collection of eggs that were given to her, starting with the one that Jose Bejar, the president of
Oh, I'm sure I know Jose. Isn't that funny? Somebody gives you some, all of a sudden you're a collector. You had no idea you were going to collect them. Wow.
And then the on that picture, you saw some little Barbie dolls.
Yes.
Okay, the one on the that has the outfit right in the center.
Oh,
That's the outfit that becomes so popular, and she played the last concert at the Houston Astrodome wearing that. And but the reason I'm mentioning the red dress, this young man from Mexico, living in California, and they called me one day, and listen, he says, I'm starting a company, and I have a great connection with China. I go to China, and I would like to make a Barbie doll of Selena. And I said, go for it. And we made a contract. And that little outfit, the purple outfit, so incredible. And then the contract ended, about 3 years later. And I hadn't seen this young man anymore. He was originally from Mexico. Well, guess what? Last week, he came from Los Angeles.
no.
Him and his wife, and now he's married, got two boys and a daughter. And he says, I had to come. I'll never forget the break that you gave me with the dolls, because nobody would pay attention to me. You're the only one that paid attention to me. And we had a successful run on those dolls.
She's still loved. I mean, you can't walk down the street in LA that you don't see 2 or 3 Selena t-shirts on some young girl. That's for sure. That's for sure. Now, I would imagine one of the reasons that you wrote the book, because when someone like Selena, who's so loved and so famous, and everybody writes things, and I'm sure many, many things are not true and not right. Did you write it to set things right and to get the story out there? You even go into great detail about that terrible day we lost her.
Yes, I wanted to put all of that in the book, because I also put all the transcripts of the trial of the woman that killed Selena.
Right.
And they had the doctor on the chair questioning, and the doctor testified something that some people have been ugly with me about that she died because I didn't want to give her blood.
Yes.
It's just a stupid lie. And so in the book, it says what the doctor said. He says, when the ambulance brought her into the emergency room, she was already dead. She was brain dead. And he said, but I knew who she was. And I tried as a last resort to do something. He says, and I gave her blood. And when he said I gave her blood, my reaction was, she didn't want blood. Now the reporters are right there next to me with their cameras. They picked it up and ran with it. And 26 years later, people are accusing me that she died because I didn't want to give her blood. And that's why I put that in the book, because the doctor testified. He says, I gave her blood, but she was already dead. I tried it as a last resort. He says, I even opened up her chest and massage her heart to see if I could get it working again. Nothing worked. She was dead. So that clears up that ugly lie that's been around for 26 years. And of course, not all the people will read my book, but eventually it'll spread out that she did have blood, but didn't work. You know, she was dead already.
It's a beautiful book. It really is a beautiful book and an important book. And I'm sure it was certainly difficult to write those particular chapters. I mean, much of it, I'm sure, reliving happy memories, but that had to have been very difficult for you.
It was. And it's, people don't understand that this is a different kind of pain because we are programmed emotionally and that the older folks go first. But when one of your daughters or your son who are young goes, it's a different kind of pain. And nobody knows about it, how that feeling is, till they go through that experience. She died 26 years ago. And my wife, Marcela, to this day, 26 years later, some days, she is not feeling good. She starts crying. You know, it stayed in her mind for 26 years. I mean, she doesn't do that every day, but she still remembers ever so often about that.
Sure.
And for people to talk like we're doing it to get publicity or make money, they are so ignorant. They're very ignorant of what really happened.
It's really a beautiful book. It's very heartwarming and it's just wonderful. This is published, and I love it, a Latina, Leticia Gomez, and it's Café con Leche, published. It's on Amazon. And I know that a mutual friend, Nancy Los Santos, who you knew, and she worked with you on the book. There you are. So she's going to come on and we're going to hear a little bit from her. Can you zoom on in from beautiful downtown Solano Canyon?
Can I say one last thing?
Yes.
That the book is in Amazon and other bookstores, but also at my company, Q Productions, because we have a big gift shop and we sell at the gift shop. And I'd like to mention that you can order from Q Productions, and we have it cheaper than Amazon and the other ones.
So then go to your website. The website, what is the website?
It's q-productions.com.
Okay. It really is a beautiful, beautiful book. And thank you for sharing your stories, Mr. Q. Thank you so much. We're very appreciative. Hey, Nance, go ahead, mijo. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I appreciate the invite. I really do. And I want to thank you and Mr. De La Peña.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Nancy, how was it working on a book that's very personal and because Selena belonged to us very, very much so. So it's personal. And I don't know that you'd ever done this you're obviously a well-known writer, but doing this kind of thing, was this new?
This was new, writing somebody else's story. And it was quite an emotional experience. I'll go back to say, you know, that I worked on the Selena film production. So that's 25 years ago. And that had to be one of the most emotional experiences of my professional life, to be there recreating it and celebrating the family, Selena's life and the family's accomplishments. And when Mr. Quintanilla called and asked me to help him, to work with him on it, it was an honor, quite frankly, because it's a big story. This is a big, important Mexican-American family in our community. And their story is important. And the story does not start with Selena, as we know. The story starts with the family, with Mr. Quintanilla, with this music in his soul. He calls it an obsession. And it sounds like that might be negative, but it's not. You know, it's a love, it's an embrace, it's in his soul, this music. You know, there's a part in the book where, you know, I still get chills when I think about it, when he said he'd be working at that chemical plant and if he could, his mind could take him away and he could still hear the shush shush of the people's feet on the floor dancing, you know, and you just say, wow, you know, these memories are just ingrained in his brain and his heart. And I just thought that it's so important for our community to have these stories and to be able to pick up a book and say, hey, read this as a young person and see that success doesn't just happen overnight. There, you know, there would not be Selena as we know her. Somehow I'm sure she would have blossomed somehow and, you know, gotten through things. But as we know her, without Mr. Quintanilla, without Marcela, without Suzette, without AB, without that family foundation, it was a family business, as he has said many times. But it was also, business is even the wrong word, right, Mr. Quintanilla? It's more like it was just a family's love, a family's journey, as the title.
Well, you know, I'm working with my kids.
Mhm,
It was a joy because the whole family's together all the time.
mhm.
And I was telling Dan that I started booking Selena los Dinos or the Dinos since Selena was 9 years old. And a lot of promoters would say, oh man, come on, they're kids.
Mhm.
And it's a girl. And girls don't draw no people.
Right.
Well, guess what? I proved all the promoters that were wrong,
Mhm.
and that Selena has become the #1 Latin female artist of the world. The Grammys already just gave us a merit award.
Life achievement.
Yeah, Life Achievement Award.
Mhm. But still, and I really appreciate that she was incredibly special in our life. And
But
yeah,
Nancy, tell us about the process. How did you guys do it? I mean, did you make a lot of trips there?
once we started, once we said, okay, you know, I flew to Corpus a number of times in 2019. And really, Mr. Quintanilla is a wonderful storyteller. And we sat for hours and went to his favorite restaurant, which is called Hi Ho. I gained about 10 pounds because great restaurant that has really great Tex-Mex food. And we'd go there and he would just tell stories, and the stories I transcribe them, I record them. And just really, it was putting things in the right order, because he'll tell this story from when he was a young man, then that story from the Grammy Awards, then this story when he met Marcella, just putting them all in order. And that was a pleasure. It truly was, you know, to visit somebody's life, to be a part of somebody's journey and writing it down. It was quite an honor, and I'm really so happy with the outcome. More than anything, I'm just happy that all the stories are in one place. You know, that his family would kind of tease me and say, yeah, we heard that story, and he told us that story. And Marcella would say, yeah, and how about this part of it? Because they had heard the stories, but we hadn't heard the stories. You know?
They had lived the stories. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. There must be, you can't have every story in it. There must, you, Mr. Q, and then Nancy, is there a story that you love that just didn't make it? It just didn't fit in, or, you know, but it's a great story, but didn't work? Was there a story that, or that you're sorry that you left out maybe? How did you feel about that, Mr. Q?
Well, Nancy, I'll tell you how we started writing. I know Nancy way before, because she was one of the producers of the Selena movie. That's how I knew Nancy. And I knew she could write, that she was a writer. And that's why I called her and told her my plan. And we started work. She would fly to Corpus. She made quite a few flies back and forth to Los Angeles and to Corpus. And I would tell her the story, and she would either record it or write it. And she'd done a fabulous job of putting it in the right sequence, you know, in the right order. And there was a lot of things there that I didn't put, because it would have made it a book quite thick, you know. But I just wrote the things that that came to mind or where she was interviewing me that I felt were had to be in the book. And I really appreciate Nancy done a great job.
How long a process was it? How long did this take before, from the phone call to it looking like this?
It was a little bit, about a year and a little
Mhm.
bit over.
A little bit
It
over.
doesn't seem too long for a book like this. That seems pretty quick. So you worked well together. Obviously, the merger worked well.
So, you know, the book again is his life and his family's life, his family's journey. So I feel that, I don't know, I think almost every story that he told me is in that book. I'm sure he has a lot of other stories that he didn't tell me. But what sticks out for me was that early part of his life, because yeah, the movie touched upon it, but
Yeah.
I never really knew exactly what that life was. No, Dan, I knew your dad's story too. And I still am just in awe of these musicians of that time who were trying their best to have a life to support themselves and their family through this business, and how challenging that was when they were English language musicians and singers, as your dad,
Yeah.
trying to cross over. And
Absolutely.
hitting that wall, but they didn't stop. You know, the reason Mr. Quintanilla stopped, excuse me if I'm saying this incorrectly, Mr. Q, but it was about the family. You know, he had children, and at that point, he really felt like he needed to have a job that would pay him. But, or else he would have kept going, as your dad did, you know, keep going, and that traveling in the station wagons with the luggage on top of the car, you know, looking for gigs. There's a movie in there somewhere. There truly is, Dan. I've
Oh,
told you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Q calls it an obsession, but it's a calling. It's
Yeah.
like becoming a nun, you know, with better costumes. But you know, it's like it's a calling. I'm not surprised that he'd be at Dow Chemical and hearing the songs and needing the music. You know, it's
And I think it's also important to note, you know, he did not, you know, tell his kids, you're going to be in a band. You know, Selena started singing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that because it's very, because we all know about showbiz parents, you know, get out there, kid, and the kid doesn't really want to. But I think when Mr. Q talks about that he was guiding his children, they had the music in them. They had it in them, and you did guide them. You did guide them and encourage them, Mr. Q.
Well, you know, it wasn't easy. It took a long.
Sure.
Well, you gotta understand that kids, when they're young, their attention span is not very long. They want to go outside and play with the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. But I made them rehearse about 30 minutes every afternoon, and of course they didn't like it at first, but it all changed. Their attitude changed when they learned the first song all together, everybody playing together and Selena singing. And they realized that they were creating something.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, it was music in their minds, in their sleep, and their everywhere, every time. That's all they would think about music. And eventually, these are kids that had never touched an instrument. They like, you know, put it in their hands. And I had some recordings when Selena was 10 years old, 11 years old. And if you listen to it, you would never guess that it's a young kids band. They sound amazing. I mean, and I can tell you with all assurance, because I am a musician. I know how to distinguish somebody that's good at what they do in music and some that are not. And you're right. Talent, I want to use this expression. Talent is dime a dozen. It's in every corner, like filling stations and hamburger places. But if you don't have somebody with a business mind to guide them where they're supposed to go,
right. That's
they'll
right.
never get there.
Yeah.
I don't care how good they are.
It's called show business, unfortunately, because they're not likely partners, but it's true. You know, you got to know the business end of it as well. So you have the whole package.
And they were always watching out for her, because we know how easily, unfortunately, some some talents just say, I only want to know about this talent part of it. I don't want to know about that business part of it. But Selena was surrounded by the family. And as he said, that was a family business, and a very successful family business. And I think that it's a really proud Mexican-American Tejano story that I'm glad that it's in a book form and that young kids can read it. Everyone can read it.
And old kids, not just young kids.
And understand that it takes grit and commitment and tenacity. It doesn't come easy. And sometimes you might go off the road, but you're going to come back. If it really is your calling, as you say, Dan, if it really is what is in your heart, as Mr. Q says, you come back to it.
We're going to get to a Q&A part, but before I do, you had a story you wanted to tell.
Oh,
Nancy.
well,
Is it short?
it's short enough, but it's just one of my favorite stories from the Selena film production, which I'm so proud to have been a part of. And when we lived, since Los Angeles people who worked in it had to go and live in apartments in San Antonio. And if you don't know San Antonio, a city that I love so much.
I love San Antonio.
It's a long, flat city though, flat, but unlike us where you look out and there's mountains and hills and all that here. So Carolina Caldera and we were the associate producers together. And one of our first big jobs was to get 30,000 extras to fill the Alamo Dome as we were recreating the Astrodome concert with
that costume on the Barbie, the purple costume.
The Alamo Dome filled 60,000 people. They only needed 30 and then only needed 30,000. And then they would double the shot to look like it was full. So that was our job as associate producer. Go out there and get 30,000 people to come for all day, a 10-hour day for free. And, just go out and get them. So we worked so hard at that. It was before social media. So we had flyers, we had buttons, we had postcards, we went to radio stations, TV stations. And of course, people welcomed us because they really embraced the movie and everyone so loved Selena and the Dinos. And we worked really hard though. And the day of our call was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that night, Carolina and I, we go to sleep in our little apartment. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm awakened by what was one of those thunderous thunderstorms that Texas is so well known for. And I'm talking, but it sounded like God was just saying, okay, I'm opening up the sky, rain, thunder, lightning, everything. And we get in our car and we could see from where we were 10 miles away, the Alamo Dome all lit up, everybody waiting to cameras, everybody waiting for us to arrive with our 30,000 extras. And I said, we are in for it, girl. We're going to get fired. No one's going to show up. It's over with. And we drive there with such dread. And it still chokes me up that when we get about a block away, the first thing I see was this woman with an umbrella. And behind her were 6 little girls, all with umbrellas. And you could see under their raincoats that they were wearing purple clothes. And they were just the first of 30,000 people who showed up to be.
Nancy, the count was 36,000 people showed up.
We were only supposed to get 30, but he tells me 36,000 showed up. And that just says so much, not about our work. I would like to, say
the love of Selena, the love for Selena.
The love of Selena. It didn't matter how much it was raining. They were going to show up for that scene.
It was amazing that the whole crew were that same day we were filming the concert from the Astrodome.
Yeah.
And everybody was crying in the crew, in the movie crew. They were crying. All got emotional. And I said, wow.
We're going to close this section before we go to the Q&A with a quote from Selena. The goal isn't to live forever, but to create something that will.
Yeah.
Abelardo, do we have some questions for Mr. Q and Miss N?
Yes, we most certainly do. But before I do, I'm going to just put up the screenshot of the book one more time so that people could see this is a conversation based around A Father's Dream, which I'm sure is a beautiful book. which is available at qproductions.com. Recommend that all of our viewers go ahead and
You should
punch
have
that
it in the
after the show.
tiendita. You should carry the tiendita at the
And we
museum.
will, and we will. I'll be sharing that with our
Alberto,
store manager.
the Spanish language version will be out soon. I think it's in about a month's time, it'll be in Spanish.
Great. That was a question that was asked here by Jean Moya. Abraham, ¿saldrá a la venta en su página de Q Productions en español? And the answer is sí. Muy bien.
Seguro que sí.
Seguro que sí. Okay, tenemos una pregunta de Manuel Barraza. A question, is there a moment in Selena's career when you realized she was a superstar, Mr. Quintanilla?
I knew that they were good and that they were moving because of the sales of the records. See, that's how you know if you're got customers out there that want to buy your record. And Selena started selling huge. And so I knew they were doing something, but I never paid attention to the size of crowds that were after, love Selena, because I was so involved in everywhere. I drove the bus. I helped set up the sound system, speakers, and I was the sound engineer, controlled the console, the sound. I've done all working with a group before they got started playing or the showtime. And so that took a lot of time away from me of thinking how successful they were. I knew they were being successful, but never thought it would be to this point. Because even now, 26 years later, Selena is bigger now than she was from the day that she died. And she is known worldwide. I don't care where you go. If they mention Corpus Christi, Selena.
Right.
I want to read a letter here from Edith Mendoza. I don't know where she is. Thank you so much for hosting such an impactful Zoom call. Selena and her family exemplify the true Mexican-American dream. The Quintanilla family has done this country so proud. Keep her memory alive. I don't know where Edith is, but thank you, Edith. What do you have, Abelardo?
Yes, well, go ahead, Nancy.
I'd like to add to that because I don't know if this is the point that where Mr. Quintanilla felt it, but that she was going to be so successful. But in the book, he tells the story of when they first went to Monterrey, Mexico for a big concert. And that to me, even when he was telling me the story of this baile masivo, the big dance.
Baile masivo, they call them baile masivo.
I mean,
and he was in with a baile because nobody would dance. There's no room to dance. The very first time we entered Monterrey, 96,000 people.
Yeah, 96,000. And there were other bands there, but Selena was the band that everybody came to see. And that, to me, you get chills because it wasn't just our country, it was also Mexico. And that was a beautiful moment, I think, in her career. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Edith Mendoza, she just typed in, I'm from the city of San Pedro, California, right next to my hometown of Wilmington. Edith also asked, will the live Selena concert that earned her the Grammy, will that be available at some point in its entirety?
Of course. It's on a DVD, and it's being sold since the day about a year after the actual concert. It's been out on the market for sale. It still is. But I think right now, due to what's happening with the pandemic, you can't buy a physical product at Walmart or Best Buy, anywhere. They took out all the CDs and DVDs. The only way you can buy it is through the internet, social media, and iTunes. And you can order there, and then of course from our company at qproductions.com, we sell a lot of Selena's records there, and also a lot of memorabilia of her there.
And might
So
I,
I was to say they should go to that website because it is full of wonderful things. We have people here from Hawthorne, California, San Antonio, Torrance, Canoga Park. Leticia Gomez, wrote in from the Woodlands, Texas. Great people
that's
everywhere.
Leticia, the book publisher. She's great.
Yeah.
I'd also add that Q Productions also produces a lot of other Tejano talent, and I love Tejano music. I'm a Chicana from Chicago, as I say, and in Los Angeles, but my family is from Texas, and I love that music, and I love when I'm there, I get to hear it. But there's the website, of course, has it, but they're still keeping that music alive, and it's some wonderful bands that are being produced coming out of Q Productions, out of Corpus, out of San Antonio, out of Texas.
Okay.
All right.
And also, only you can answer this, I would imagine, Mr. Q. I recently saw a vinyl record of Selena y Los Dinos album with Freddie Records. Is that a real LP? I've only seen the cassette and later the CD in 1995. Manuel Barraza.
It is true they're selling it, but it's not a big vinyl like a 78. They sell it in the smaller disc, and of course they have it in CDs and DVDs. No, they don't have a DVD, just CDs. Yeah, they're selling. I know that they're selling.
Lauren Esquivel writes, Mr. Quintanilla and Nancy, did you all have any rituals during the writing process? Something that helped you get into that creative mode?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Like I mentioned, that it took over a year to write the story. Nancy would fly to Corpus Christi, and we set up a microphone, her recorder and everything, and I would start just telling her the story, and she was writing it. And then at the end, she put everything in order, which is the way it's written in the book. And so we sell it at Q Productions, and it's cheaper at my place at Q Productions, cheaper than Amazon or any other publishing book company. And it's selling very, very well. I'm so proud of that. And then I thought, I wonder if it's going to sell.
Of course, everybody thinks that, but I think really, Mr. Q, the ritual was we'd start every morning at Hi Ho Restaurant.
let me tell them about Hi Ho.
It's great.
Selena went there just about every other day. It's I don't know why they came up with the name Hi Ho, but it's a Tex-Mex food. It's not Mexico type. It's food like what my grandmother used to cook for us when we were kids.
Exactly.
That kind of style, and very, very good, very tasty.
It's the place where you order enchiladas and they say tortillas de harina.
Oh, yeah, because they make the tortillas there.
Oh, it's so
And,
good. That
and
was
so,
our
so me and Nancy would go every morning and keep talking about the story while we were eating. And we come back to my office and continue. I'm so happy that Nancy helped me write this.
And sometimes we would just drive around the city. And,
Yes.
it would like touch off a memory or a story that he wanted to tell. And we visited Selena's tombstone, and we visited the beautiful bronze statue.
Yeah,
That
that is a beautiful, I've only seen photos of it.
It's
It's
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Can I say something about that statue?
Mhm.
The city didn't put that up.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, not the city. It was an Anglo man. In fact, he died already not too long ago. He's a multimillionaire, and he called me one day. He said, "Mr. Quintanilla, you might not believe this, but I'm a Selena fan. I'm an Anglo guy. I'm almost 80. I love your daughter and I love the music. Would you mind if I built a statue for her? I said, of course, I wouldn't mind. Yes. So he went and talked to the city and picked out a real nice place. And I found out later, he never told me, but I found out later that for the statue and to build that place around there where the statue is, it cost him $900,000. That's what he said. The city said that that's what he paid for that, because they reserve a big space of the downtown area there right on the side of the ocean. For this.
Beautiful spot and an amazing bronze statue. Just amazing.
I want to thank you both so very, very much for coming on the Zoom tonight. I appreciate it. And I've got to get a Corpus Christi. And will you take me to the museum and to see the statue, Mr. Q?
Yes.
And to Hi-Ho?
And then we'll go to Hi-Ho.
That's what I want. That's what I want to do. It was wonderful. Nancy, thank you, darling. Mr. Q, honestly, many, many thanks, not only for writing this beautiful book, but for being here on tonight's happy hour. I appreciate it very much. Abelardo?
No, thank you so much, Dan, of course, hosting this and the penetrating questions. Abraham Quintanilla, Mr. Quintanilla, thank you so much for everything that you've done and for writing the book. And Nancy for co-writing the book and bringing all these stories to life. And we can't wait to read it ourselves and to have it there at our store, our little tiendita there at La Plaza. Just a couple of final questions or comments here from Diana Martinez. Mr. Q has been portrayed as an astute music manager and sharp businessman who knows how to fight for what's needed and won't be taken advantage of.
Thank you.
That sums it up. Go ahead.
One last question for Abelardo.
Yes.
Did you get any people from Texas that?
Oh, did we? Let me go here.
A lot from San Antonio. A lot from San Antonio.
Rachel Delgado from San Antonio. Lauren Esquivel from San Antonio. Eileen Kret, glad to be here from San Antonio.
Eileen Kret.
Yes, we have Leticia Gomez from Woodlands, Texas. We have and people from here in LA. Oh, Jess from Brazil, tuning in all the way from Brazil.
Do you have a person by the name of Jose Gonzalez?
Oh, let me see. I'm going to check our panelists roster here. The attendees.
His real name is, the full name is Jose Rosario Gonzalez.
Oh
no, I'm afraid I don't see him on our Zoom, and I don't see him on our. But just to let you know, we have been recording this. We will be posting it on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. It also lives on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA. We also have it on our website. So I'll be sending you the link so that you could send it out to all your friends and associates so that they could see this entire happy hour with Dan Guerrero.
Could they put the link on the Q Productions website?
Of course.
Of course they can. Yes, yes. This lives on in
they
your
could hear
archives,
you
Dan.
telling all this story. So send them the link and you can put it on your website and everyone can hear these wonderful stories.
In fact, that triangle thing that was announced in this.
Yes.
It's on a Facebook page and everything that we have, Instagram and all that.
Great.
Yeah,
no, we will definitely send you the link. Yes, we will get this to you as soon as possible.
The reason I ask you, because Jose Rosario Gonzalez was one of the ones that texted me that he was going to see the show tonight, and he's from San Antonio, so I was just wondering.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
I'm zooming off. We should all zoom off because now what?
Yeah, go ahead. Just want to talk about your next guest, Dan. Just real quick. Here, I'll just
Who
show
is it?
this. Well, let's see who it is.
Oh, Kiki Enrique Castillo, who's had a, well, everybody knows Enrique Castillo, Blood In, Blood Out, Classic Things, Weeds, the series, a very long and distinguished career. And now he's doing a wonderful documentary about Los Changuitos Feos, mariachi education group that's been around forever in Tucson, which started the whole mariachi education component of so many towns, mostly in the Southwest, but Kiki's next week, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to zoom off. You do what you do, Nancy, Mr. Q. I'll see you at Hi-Ho.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Well, everybody hang on. I have a few announcements before we go. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, Mr. Quintanilla. Thank you, Nancy. Great friends all. And like I said, those of you who tuned in, who might want to see this again, you're tuned in late, you can catch the entire session on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA, and also on our Facebook at La Plaza LA, and also on our website, lapca.org. And Casa con La Plaza continues next week. We have 2 programs besides Dan. Dan, of course, on Friday, August 6th. On Monday, Salsa Luchadora, a cooking demonstration with Samantha Martinez. That's on August 2nd at 3 p.m. Something interesting here, the care and of succulents. This is with Lupe Torres. Since we've been in lockdown, a lot of us have grown attached, or we've gotten an interest in the life around us, including succulents. So Lupe Torres will talk about that. And also special, just to talk about what the topics that we had here on August, one of our outdoor programs, the next outdoor program, August 14th, Selena Fest. It's an outdoor celebration and a film screening there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. It's we celebrate the life and legacy of Tejano sensation Selena Quintanilla with a musical performance by Selenamos, a tribute band, a vendor selling cultural items that'll be part of the screening of this Gregory Nava film, and mucho más, food and beverages available for sale. It's going to be great. So that's free. That's on Friday, August 14th at 6 p.m. And yeah, of all the programs, we had Selena, a beautiful Selena Fest about 4 or 5 years ago that it just filled up La Plaza. So that's something you don't want to miss. That one is sponsored by AARP, as was this En Casa con La Plaza session with Dan Guerrero, Mr. Quintanilla, and Nancy de los Santos. So thank you so much to AARP California for sponsoring our great programs. So with that, buenas noches a todos. Thanks to all of you that joined us on Zoom, on Facebook, and that will watch this later. So buenas noches y nos vemos muy pronto. Bye-bye.